Happy to entertain you as always, Rod. Oh, yeah.
Jerry Maguire 1996 isn't just a classic, it's packed with bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets. From improvised lines to last-minute changes, these 20 weird facts will make you look at the movie in a whole new way. 1. Tom Cruise didn't want to do the film at first. Despite Jerry Maguire becoming one of Tom Cruise's most iconic roles, he almost didn't take the part. Initially, Cruise was hesitant about playing Jerry Maguire, a sports agent struggling with personal and professional chaos. Cruise feared the film would come off as too sentimental or cheesy, but after reading the script, he saw the character's depth and complexity. The turning point for Cruise was the character's moral dilemma and the film's emotional resonance. Jerry's internal struggle and the challenges he faced seemed like a perfect fit for the actor's range. Interestingly, Cruise wasn't the first choice for the role producers initially considered actors, like Matthew McConaughey and Leonardo DiCaprio. Ultimately, Cruise's iconic performance turned the character into a household name, and the film solidified his status as one of Hollywood's leading actors in the 90s. 2. Cuba Gooding Jr. improvised the famous "Show me the money" line. The legendary "Show me the money" line is one of the most quoted phrases in movie history, but it almost didn't happen as we know it. The line, delivered by Cuba Gooding Jr. as Rod Tidwell, was completely improvised on set. The scene called for Gooding to be on the phone with Tom Cruise's Jerry Maguire, but the words were initially meant to be generic and scripted. However, Gooding decided to push the boundaries of his character's desperation and energy, creating the iconic line on the spot. The Farrelly brothers, who were directing the scene, loved it so much that they decided to keep it in the final cut. What's weird is that Cuba's improvisation became a defining moment in the film, and the line quickly turned into pop culture gold, being parodied everywhere from commercials to TV shows, cementing his place in cinematic history. 3. The script was written in just 2 weeks. Cameron Crowe, the director and writer of Jerry Maguire, wrote the screenplay in an astonishing 2 weeks. Crowe was inspired by his own experiences working as a journalist and his interactions with sports agents. The script initially came together as an exploration of the emotional challenges and moral dilemmas faced by a man at the peak of his career. Crowe's speed in writing the script is surprising given the depth of the characters and themes. He based the film on his interviews with real sports agents and their clients, incorporating insights into the professional world of sports while adding his own emotional spin. What's weird is how quickly Crowe wrote a script that would become a cultural touchstone. The rapid writing process highlights his intuitive grasp of character, storytelling, and humor, creating a script that feels emotionally authentic despite the quick turnaround. 4. The film's iconic "You Had Me at Hello" line was not originally in the script. The romantic climax between Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger features the famous line, "You had me at hello," which became one of the most quoted movie moments in history. Interestingly, this line was completely ad-libbed by Renee Zellweger. Initially, the script called for a more traditional romantic declaration, but Zellweger improvised the line on the spot. The Farrelly brothers loved it so much that they decided to keep it, and it ended up becoming a defining moment in the film. The line captured the essence of Jerry and Dorothy's relationship, showing how their bond was based on deep emotional connection rather than grand gestures or cliches. Zellweger's ability to convey sincerity in the moment helped elevate the scene, and "You Had Me at Hello" became a cultural touchstone, often cited as one of the most memorable lines in romantic comedy history. 5. Jerry Maguire's iconic "The Things We Think and Do Not Say" speech was almost cut. One of the most famous scenes in Jerry Maguire is the emotional moment where Jerry delivers a heartfelt, raw speech about the true meaning of relationships and his desire to rebuild his career. This speech, which contains the line, "The things we think and do not say," was almost cut from the movie entirely. Test audiences didn't initially respond well to the scene, finding it too introspective and slow for the pace of the film. However, Tom Cruise and Cameron Crowe were both adamant about keeping the speech, believing it was crucial to Jerry's character development. The Farrelly brothers fought to keep the scene intact, and in the final cut, It added emotional depth to the film. The speech highlights Jerry's internal transformation from a slick, superficial sports agent to a man who wants to make a difference in the world. It became one of the most memorable moments in the film. Cease. Renee Zellweger wasn't the first choice for Dorothy. Renee Zellweger's portrayal of Dorothy Boyd in Jerry Maguire became iconic, but she wasn't the first choice for the role. The Farrelly brothers originally considered other actresses, including Sandra Bullock and Uma Thurman, for the part of Jerry's love interest. Zellweger had only appeared in smaller films at the time, and she wasn't yet a big name in Hollywood. However, director Cameron Crowe saw something unique in Zellweger during auditions and felt she was the perfect fit for Dorothy's grounded, sweet, and fierce character. Zellweger's ability to embody both vulnerability and strength made Dorothy an unforgettable role. What's weird is that the casting decision to go with Zellweger, who was relatively unknown at the time, became one of the most important moments in her career, catapulting her into stardom. She would go on to star in many more iconic roles, but Dorothy was the one that launched her into the limelight. 7. The film's budget was tight. Despite Jerry Maguire becoming a box office success, the film's budget was surprisingly modest. With a budget of only around $50 million, the production had to be frugal with its spending, especially considering the star power of Tom Cruise. The film utilized a lot of practical effects and simple locations, making the most of every dollar. For instance, much of the movie's action happens in small, intimate settings like hotel rooms, offices, and a few outdoor locations. This limited budget forced the filmmakers to focus more on strong performances and sharp writing, rather than relying on special effects. What's weird is that the low budget ended up benefiting the film, as it kept the focus on the characters and their emotional journeys. The simple settings, combined with the film's strong dialogue and performances, allowed it to connect deeply with audiences, proving that a compelling story is more important than flashy visuals. 8. The Show Me the Money scene took several takes. The famous "Show Me the Money" scene, one of the most quoted lines from the movie, wasn't as easy to film as it appears. Cuba Gooding Jr., who played Rod Tidwell, was tasked with delivering the line multiple times, and it took several takes to get the energy and intensity just right. Director Cameron Crowe worked closely with Gooding to ensure the moment captured the desperation and humor of the situation. Gooding, who improvised much of his character's dialogue, brought a genuine sense of urgency and fun to the line. What's weird is that the improvisation became so iconic that many people forget it was actually part of the script. The "Show Me the Money" line took on a life of its own, and Gooding's performance was key in turning the scene into one of the most unforgettable moments in 90s film history, earning him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. 9. The real inspiration for the movie was a sports agent. Jerry Maguire was inspired by real events and figures in the world of sports management. Screenwriter Cameron Crowe based much of the character of Jerry on a real sports agent he met while writing for Rolling Stone magazine. The agent, who worked for a major sports agency, revealed his personal and professional struggles, and Crowe was struck by how much of his life mirrored the character's struggles in the movie. Crowe used his interviews with the agent to craft Jerry's emotional arc and his complicated relationship with his clients. What's weird is that while Jerry Maguire is a fictional character, the struggles he faces fighting for what he believes in and balancing his personal and professional life were drawn from real-world experiences. The film's emotional depth and authenticity came directly from Crowe's ability to capture the nuances of this real-life profession, making Jerry's journey feel truly relatable. 10. Tom Cruise almost didn't do the iconic "the things we think and do not say" speech. The heart-wrenching "the things we think and do not say" speech almost didn't make it into the final cut of Jerry Maguire. Director Cameron Crowe had initially scripted the speech as a small, intimate moment, but later felt it didn't pack enough emotional punch. Tom Cruise, whose character Jerry was at a crossroads in his life, was initially hesitant to give the speech the way it was written. 10. Tom Cruise almost didn't do the iconic "the things we think and do not say" speech. The heart-wrenching, "the things we think and do not say" speech almost didn't make it into the final cut of Jerry Maguire. Director Cameron Crowe had initially scripted the speech as a small, intimate moment, but later felt it didn't pack enough emotional punch. Tom Cruise, whose character Jerry was at a crossroads in his life, was initially hesitant to give the speech the way it was written. The directors and Cruise spent a lot of time refining the tone to make sure it resonated. What's weird is that this scene, originally intended to be a small beat, became one of the most emotional and defining moments of the film. It's a powerful moment of self-realization for Jerry, showing how far he's come from the selfish, career-driven man he once was. The film's success wouldn't have been the same without this pivotal speech, which cemented the character's emotional journey. 11. The movie's catchphrase was almost different. We all know the famous catchphrase, "Show me the money." But did you know that the Farrelly brothers originally considered a completely different line for the scene? Initially, the line was meant to be, "Give me the money," or even, "I want the money." However, Cuba Gooding Jr. improvised, "Show me the money," during rehearsal, and it immediately felt more urgent and impactful. The directors loved it so much that they decided to use it instead. The phrase quickly became iconic, being repeated in countless TV shows, movies, and even commercials. What's weird is that something as simple as changing a line can alter the course of a film's legacy. "Show me the money" not only became a catchphrase, but it also defined the movie's themes of greed, desperation, and self-discovery. The improvisation turned out to be one of the most culturally significant moments in the film. 12. The real Jerry Maguire is a combination of several agents. While Jerry Maguire is based on real-life inspiration, the character himself isn't based on just one person. Cameron Crowe created Jerry by combining the stories of several sports agents he had met and interviewed. Crowe was particularly fascinated by the personal and emotional toll that working in sports management could take on a person, and how agents had to balance their business-driven lives with personal beliefs. The real agents who served as inspiration for Jerry Maguire were often working in a high-pressure, highly competitive environment that demanded personal sacrifices. What's weird is that Jerry's internal struggles, including his crisis of conscience and need to redefine his career, were inspired by the real agent's vulnerabilities. By blending different aspects of these people's lives, Crowe created a more dynamic and empathetic character, making Jerry's journey relatable to a wider audience. 13. The movie was a critical risk for Tom Cruise. At the time Jerry Maguire was being made, Tom Cruise was already an established movie star thanks to Top Gun and Mission Impossible. However, taking on the role of Jerry Maguire was a huge risk for Cruise. Unlike the action-heavy roles he was known for, Jerry was a more vulnerable and introspective character. Cruise was stepping outside of his comfort zone. Knowing that this performance would require him to dig deep emotionally, Crowe and the Farrelly brothers were confident in Cruise's abilities, and the actor was eager to prove that he could handle a role that required more depth than his usual action-packed fare. What's weird is that Cruise's willingness to take on a character so different from his previous roles not only paid off but became one of his most beloved performances. His risk-taking proved to be a turning point in his career. 14. The film's success surprised everyone. When Jerry Maguire was released, no one expected it to become the massive hit that it did. The movie was considered a risky project because it was not the typical blockbuster that Tom Cruise had been associated with. The film was a character-driven romantic comedy, mixed with elements of sports drama, a genre not known for attracting huge audiences at the time. However, when it hit theaters, Jerry Maguire resonated with audiences worldwide, becoming both a critical and commercial success. What's weird is that, despite its somewhat unconventional premise, the film ended up being one of the biggest hits of 1996, earning over $270 million worldwide. It also garnered multiple Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. The unexpected success proved that audiences were ready for more nuanced and emotionally resonant stories, even if they came from unconventional genres. 15. Tom Cruise's involvement in the film's creative process. Tom Cruise wasn't just an actor on Jerry Maguire. He was deeply involved in the film's creative process. He worked closely with Cameron Crowe and the Farrelly brothers to shape his character, especially when it came to his emotional journey. Cruise felt a personal connection to Jerry Maguire's transformation, and he wanted to make sure the character felt authentic. He helped in rewriting some scenes and suggested specific moments of introspection to add more emotional depth. What's weird is that, despite being one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood at the time, Cruise's willingness to collaborate and push for a more nuanced performance made the movie feel more personal and real. His involvement added an extra layer of depth to the story, and it's one of the reasons why Jerry Maguire stands out in Cruise's extensive filmography. 16. The film's iconic soundtrack was a big part of its success. Jerry Maguire's soundtrack is one of the most beloved and recognizable of the 90s, and it played a major role in the film's success. Songs like Secret Garden by Bruce Springsteen, Free Fallin' by Tom Petty, and Sheryl Crow's Every Day is a Winding Road perfectly captured the film's themes of self-discovery, love, and redemption. Cameron Crowe, known for his ability to select the perfect songs for a scene, was deeply involved in choosing the soundtrack. What's weird is that the soundtrack itself became a cultural phenomenon, with fans listening to it as a standalone piece of art. It connected deeply with the movie's emotional depth, making it an essential companion to the film. The soundtrack's success helped further cement Jerry Maguire as an iconic movie, contributing to the film's lasting appeal and ensuring that its music lives on in popular culture, just like the film itself. 17. The "You Had Me at Hello" line was not originally in the script. Renee Zellweger's iconic line, "You had me at hello," was actually an improvisation during filming. The script originally called for a more traditional declaration of love from her character, Dorothy. However, Zellweger, in an emotional and vulnerable moment, ad-libbed the line during one of the takes. The Farrelly brothers loved it so much that they decided to keep it in the final cut. The line immediately became one of the most memorable moments in romantic comedy history. What's weird is that a simple, spontaneous moment turned into one of the most quoted and celebrated lines in cinema. The line itself captured the essence of Dorothy's feelings for Jerry, making it more authentic and heartfelt than anything scripted. It also showcased Zellweger's ability to improvise and bring her own unique touch to her character, solidifying her as a leading actress in Hollywood. 18. Jerry Maguire's "Help Me Help You" scene was improvised. The "Help Me Help You" scene, where Jerry Maguire passionately pleads with his client Rod Tidwell, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., is one of the most memorable in the film. What's weird is that this emotional, energetic scene was largely improvised by Tom Cruise. While the script called for a moment of emotional plea, Cruise pushed it further, improvising his desperate line and delivering it with such intensity that it became one of the film's most quoted moments. The raw emotion and energy brought by Cruise elevated the scene, turning what could have been a simple speech into a defining cinematic moment. It's a perfect example of how a director's trust in an actor's instincts can create magic on screen. This improvisation, combined with Gooding's equally powerful performance, cemented Jerry Maguire as an unforgettable movie. The chemistry between the two actors helped make this scene one of the most memorable in the genre. 19. Tom Cruise did most of his own stunts. While Jerry Maguire may not be a traditional action film, Tom Cruise still put in significant physical work for his role. Despite the film's emotional and dialogue-driven scenes, Cruise took on many of his own stunts, especially during the more physical moments, like the famous phone call scene with Cuba Gooding Jr., where his energy and physicality made the scene come alive. Cruise's commitment to performing these physical moments added authenticity to Jerry's character, especially in moments when he was dealing with both emotional and physical challenges. This level of dedication to his role helped set Cruise apart from other actors, as his willingness to perform without stunt doubles for the most part demonstrated his passion for the film. What's weird is how committed Cruise was to not only giving an emotionally raw performance, but also making sure the physicality was as genuine as possible, adding depth to his portrayal of Jerry Maguire. 20. The film's happy ending was almost different. The final romantic resolution between Jerry and Dorothy almost didn't happen. Originally, the Farrelly brothers and Cameron Crowe had a darker ending in mind, where Jerry's journey would end with him making a big sacrifice that would show his personal growth. but without Dorothy. This was meant to leave the audience with a bittersweet, more realistic conclusion. However, Tom Cruise and Cameron Crowe felt that the character's emotional journey wasn't truly complete without the romantic resolution. The decision to end with Jerry and Dorothy finding happiness together gave the movie a more hopeful and satisfying conclusion, though it wasn't the easiest path to get there. What's weird is how close the movie came to ending on a more somber note. This shift in direction not only impacted the film's tone, but also ensured that Jerry Maguire's ending left viewers with a deep sense of emotional satisfaction, adding to the movie's timeless appeal.